now from Tokyo, Japan. Hello, everyone. How are you and where are you?
I like it. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of your podcast, English podcast. So I have a problem. I'd like you to help me out. Now I'm doing president and of my chapter, and so we have 20 members. Like it used to be 31, but for the last 1 year, like we've been losing members. And so in this term, so we are focusing on like inviting visitors, and we are aiming 40 members. But, so in about like 6 hours, like we have a chapter meeting, and
So for a podcast while you're talking. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Then so this week we have only 2 visitors, and obviously I think members are losing like motivation. So I've been thinking what to say to my members. So like your message would be the really powerful message for my.
It'll be what?
It'll be powerful. Yeah.
Okay.
Message. So what would you say to?
First, I recommend. I'm looking for. Dana, do you remember? It's not pulling up very well.
726 or 728?
The one with Mark Brevis. I didn't even say what it was, and she's giving me that. It was 400. 728. You're right. She got it right, by the way. She got it right. Go to episode number 728. Coaching a Chapter to Greatness. Okay? Episode 728. First of all, thank you about the podcast, and I'll talk about 728 in just a moment. You said, how are you and where are you? Do you know why I say that? And I've said it in the podcast a couple of times. If you don't know why I have Priscilla ask that, is that years ago people, I'd get these emails or letters and people would say, you're probably sitting on the beach with Mai Tais. You really don't know what's going on in the regions. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this person has no idea how much I am out traveling. I have 2.4 million air miles on American Airlines alone. Just that one airline. So I am out visiting regions all the time. And so that's why I have her say, how are you and where are you? So that people know that I'm out and about. Anyway, episode number 728, Mark Brevis. So the story with that episode was that Mark was a member of the founding, is a member still, of the founding chapter of BNI. Chapter number 1. The chapter that I started as president. I was the president of the chapter. And they were down to 16 members. And he told me he didn't think that they were going to make it. And I was like, no. You're the founding chapter. You know, you got to make it. And I told him a story that I'm not going to tell you now. He heard me tell a story about how I was with a chapter that just wasn't ready. They weren't ready until somebody came up to me and said, I'm ready. And Mark heard me say that story, and he came up to me and he said, I'm ready. I want our chapter to be successful. And so I worked with Mark for a year. This was just about 3 years ago. It was right before COVID. So I worked with Mark for about a year, and we would get on Skype or Zoom once a month. He would tell me the issues that he had going, and I'd coach him on what the chapter needed to do to be successful. Well, if you go to episode number 728, you will find the entire year's coaching. Because I would do these conversations, and then I would send him an email with all the lists of the podcasts he needed to listen to, the blogs he needed to read, in order to turn the chapter around. And he did everything that I asked him to do. And he turned that chapter around from 16 members to 40 members. Okay? He did a year and a half term, so it took a little over a year. But he got that chapter to 40 members. The first thing is going to sound counterintuitive. The first thing I told him was, you have to do addition by subtraction. And he said, what's that? And I said, well, my wife, I came home one day, my late wife, and this is like in early 2000s, I came home one day, and she had cut back all the rose bushes. We had like 50 rose bushes around the house. Cut them all back. And I went in the house and I said, why did you cut all the rose bushes back? And she said, oh, well, if you want rose bushes to bloom, you have to cut them back. And I thought, oh, that's a B&I chapter. I mean, that's what B&I chapters need to do sometimes, is if they're struggling, you need to actually cut them back so they bloom. And that was the first thing I told him. And he was like, no, we're at 16. We want to get to 40 or more. I don't want to cut it down to, 15, 14. So that's exactly what you want to do. You want to take the members that are, this is an acronym, minnows. It's an acronym that means like little fish, minnows, but it stands for members in name only. Members in name only. They show up, they take a seat, they're not contributing, they're not bringing referrals, they're not involved, they're not, taking on any kind of leadership role. They're members in name only. And I talked to them about how to get them to quit. It's pretty easy to get people to quit if they're not happy. Mostly you just open the door and say, it's okay if you leave, You don't have to come to this meeting that you're not excited about. And mostly people will say, okay, and they'll leave. But if you kick them out, they'll die on the hill fighting to stay in. So you got to be diplomatic, right? You apply the rules more like Mandela than Attila. And that was one of the very first things I told him to do, and he did it. And the chapter dropped down by a couple of members. Now he had 14 or so really good members. And then we talked about, for the rest of the year, the things that he needed to do to be successful. So, listen to that podcast. Print out, there's a long PDF with maybe 10 or 12 emails that I sent him that were very thorough. Some of the stuff may apply to you, some of it won't. My guess is most of it will. But let's talk about motivation. Because because one of the things that, and I don't know if I don't know if I ever published or emailed him this, but I know I talked to him about this. I said, do you want to know the secret to motivating people? Would you like to know the secret to motivating people? Yes. Yeah? You can't. That's the secret. You can't. You can't motivate anyone. They have to motivate themselves. Okay? I learned this years and years ago. I can't motivate you. Only you can motivate you. You know what I can do? I can inspire you. And this is more than semantics. I can inspire you to motivate yourself. And if I can inspire you to motivate yourself, you're going to do the things that we talk about. And one of the first things that I certainly suggested to him was, don't tell them what to do first. Tell them why. You have to start with the why. Why do we want to do one-to-ones? Why do we want regular attendance? And we've got data. We've got data. When attendance goes up, what do you think happens to referrals? Referrals go up. When one-to-ones go up, what do you think happens to referrals? Referrals go up. So there are some things that are direct correlations. And so I say, don't go to them and say you need to do more one-to-ones or you need to be here more, you can't be absent so much. Instead, talk about why attendance makes a difference. Show them the data. Tell them why one-to-ones are important. Show them the data. Most entrepreneurs, when you give them the why, they almost never go, okay, I'm excited, I'll do it. No, they don't do that. But you know what they will do? They'll go, okay, I get it, I need to do that. And if you do that in a way that's inspiring, look, we can make this chapter great. We can make this group incredible. Why accept mediocrity when excellence is an option? Excellence is an option. We can be excellent. That's how you inspire people. And that's what then gets them to go, okay, we can do this. One of the best books on that topic, I think, was Jim Collins' Good to Great. Good to great. Bad is not the enemy of great. People see bad, they go, yeah, that's bad. Good is the enemy of great. And we're doing good. Okay. My favorite phrase, and I don't know if this translates well, it's got to. Good enough for government work. Right? That's a real common American phrase. Good enough for government work. Yeah, well, we're not the government. We'd like to be a little bit better. We'd like to be great. Good is the enemy of great. A 20-member chapter is probably pretty good. But a 40-member chapter, they're tickling great. That's where things really start. That's where magic starts to happen. 35, 40, 50 members, magic happens. One of the big whys is if you go from 20 to 40 members, you generally triple the referrals. And we've got data on that. So if you double your size, you don't triple immediately. It takes 6 months or a year. But you double your size, you triple the number of referrals. For a lot of different reasons. And I talk about some of those reasons in that. So 728, go to that podcast, study it. Make it your study guide for the next year. Follow it. And remember that the president is the person that needs to be the most inspirational. If you're inspirational enough, you'll motivate them to do the things they need to do to be incredible. Great question. I hope that answers it for you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And it's bnipodcast.com.
For those of you who don't know what podcast we're talking about,
Okay, we have a question here.
go ahead.